Yeah. I want you all to know Ann Blair is here with me today for the meeting.
Everyone.
An invited guest. Is that okay?
Well, we don't see her.
Let's see who we missing. We've got Walt, we got Jack, we got Jim, we got Jean. Ann, are you on the phone by chance? No, I think she's not. She's out sailing around the world.
Oh, there's Jim. Yeah.
Jack, you're on. Matheson's on. Nicholson's off. I'm here. How about Ruth Walsh? What happened, Jim?
I don't know. She promised to be on. I gave her one click and she would be on. We'll see.
Okay. Jack, you're on the 206 number, area code 202. Matheson, I guess.
Yes, I think that's Jack.
Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got a quorum, and I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order if that's okay.
Very good.
You got the agenda, but the agenda also was to be joined with that interim report that I sent to you a couple weeks back, which is, I guess it was on the 26th of November to be specific. And I just tried to pull the number of things that are going on and put it in one sock so you'd have it in advance of the meeting. And then we got a few other additions this time, but nothing, most of it you had before. So, but it's a very short agenda today with the people here, but I think it's a really important meeting. I know we talked about not having this meeting, and I do have a few preliminary reports to make that I'd like to do briefly, and by the way of preliminary remarks. Our November membership amount is membership total is 1,960. We're about 40 short of 2,000 members, the last report that I had. And we're gaining, we had new members of 54, number is 54, over about a 2-month period. So about 30 a month is what we've experienced. In our financial report, the last financial report that I have was 30 September. And to be frank, we had about $69,000 of unencumbered cash on hand. We have a total amount of a little over $85,000, but some of that's unearned because of lifetime membership. I don't think that's a particularly figure right now, because in the last quarter we've had a lot of startup costs and things of that nature. So it's probably going to be end of year before we find anything valuable. So if you can stand that as being the report for the membership and the financial report, I would appreciate it. Are there any financial or membership questions that you might have? Anyone? In that case, let's go to work. The first thing on the agenda is a report from the transition. And that's, Tim's going to do that for us. I had sent you the latest updated transition report, so all the board members should have that amount. I mean, that report in front of you or available to you. I don't think there's been a great deal of change. Jim, do you have anything to amplify?
Now I'm going to share my screen with everybody, and then I'll just run down this very quickly. And if I'm doing this right, you should be able to see it on your screen. Is that correct?
Yeah, I can see it. It's fine.
Well, I guess Jack can't see it. I'll bring up one of these tomorrow. We've made a lot of progress, and you'll see that that most things are completed. They're close to being completed. The big news as of about a half an hour ago is the lockbox is completed. But I don't know much about it because the email was they wanted to find a time when they could conduct training with me. So they've done their part. Now they need to tell me how to do it. And I'll see if I can do that this afternoon, or it may have to go till Friday because I'm going to be in Washington tomorrow. So I'll let you look at this for a second. I think you've seen this before. The lockbox being the main thing, the transfer of all the documents and everything that's pretty much been completed. Basil, do you want to add anything?
Just a couple of things, a minor item. We agreed to take possession of the early documents that were only available in hard copy. These were the hard copy, kind of the basic beginning documents of NaCCRA. And they go back to the Charlie Polk presidency days. And I did receive that box. I have them in my possession, and we might want to make, you've recorded this, have you, Jim? You've recorded?
Yes, it's being recorded.
I don't want that. I want that to be a matter of record in the minutes that I do have it book now. Partners had that information, and they also have some other stuff. But the thing that we have to take possession of that's not available on electronic basis are this box of records that go back to the Charlie Polk presidency day. So I do have those. I haven't looked at it, but I have the box in my possession.
Do we have the address for the lockbox?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We have the address for the lockbox. I'll give you just to tell you what's going on there. We have the invoices will go out in the next day or so, and the invoices will be mailed. Partners is going to mail the invoices for November and December, and they will go into a window envelope which will show the address of the member who's getting the invoice. And then in that envelope will be a slightly smaller envelope, a number 9 envelope, and the return address on that is the lockbox. So they can just put their check in the envelope and mail it in. It goes directly to our bank account.
Yeah, the question is for new members who are paying by check, do they mail that to the Washington address or to this lockbox address? And if to the lockbox address, we need to know what it is.
Well, I can give it to you. I can email it to you. I don't have it up on my screen right now, but
can you email it around the horn, Jim? Because I think the answer is that their payments will go to the lockbox. The money goes to the lockbox. Is that not correct?
That's correct, but we also need their name, address, phone number, email address, the rest of that, so we know who to tie it to.
That's correct. That's correct.
So I'll send it to all the board members.
Okay.
So Jim, if they're joining and they don't do it through the system, but they do it by writing to you, who do they write to, and who processes that?
They would write to our new address.
The Connecticut Avenue.
Yes, exactly, and then they will forward that mail to us. And we haven't excuse me, they haven't had anything. We haven't had anything forwarded yet, but we've had a number of phone calls that have come in, and that's working very nicely.
Okay, I guess I thought that with the lockbox, if they filled out a form and sent it with a check, that the bank scanned it and gave it to you.
That's correct. They scan everything that comes into the lockbox, and then we take that information and enter it in the accounting system.
So why wouldn't the new members write to the lockbox address?
Well, Because we really want most of the communications. We can try and set that up, but I think we want most of the communications to come to the Connecticut Avenue address.
But if we, one of the things I had, I'm jumping ahead, one of the things I had was I think Lifeline have an application for people that don't come in from the community. And if we did have that application, we could just have them mail it to the lockbox directly if we asked for their name, address, whatever. Could we not?
Correct.
Because that's what's happening when you mail out these invoices. These are people that are going to get an invoice
Sure.
with an envelope that comes back to the lockbox with their payment, with the invoice document. Can we
I
not
think,
do that?
yeah, that's a good point, and we could put right in Lifeline with the box that says fill this out and send
And
us.
mail it to such and such.
Yeah.
I think that would be useful. It came up to me, one of the calls, just for the information of the board, one of the calls I got through our new number was somebody that wanted to make just a payment like that, and actually solicit other members in New Mexico. So she said, I need a hard copy, and I said, well, you can do it online. You know, I went through all that, and but she said, no, some of these people just want to fill out an application and send a check. So I got some of those old applications that I still had here, and I bundled them up and mailed them to Mexico. But to the extent that we will have some people applying on, you know, with in mail, I think we can, if we give applications and say send it to the lockbox with this application and a check, that goes directly in, and it saves that circle of going to the Connecticut Avenue address and then having to filter.
Well, either way, anyway, we're covered during the transition period because
Yeah.
Partners has already sent us some things that have come to their address. If they send it to the Connecticut Avenue address, we're going to get that.
Mm-hmm.
And if they go to the lockbox directly, that's terrific. So,
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can take action on that, but I think that is something we ought to do.
yeah, anyway, we don't have to turn any money.
Does that answer your question, Jack?
Well, it's up to you guys. I just was,
But I mean, that process makes sense, I think. I know we want to get most people to sign up online, but we're not going to get most people, or we're going to get most people, but not all people to go online. Okay. Well, I think that's the only two items that I had for discussion. You have the full report. You can see where we are. The invoices that are going out in the next few days will cover the end of the year, but that's kind of it for Partners. After that, we'll have to do it ourselves. Any other questions on the transition? Any other issues from anybody? Okay, thanks, John. Well, I'm not sure exactly how to start this next session, but I sent you earlier a document that Jack put together for me. This was a private piece of paper, but it's just, I think, a universal paper. I think it's a paper we ought to put on our website and really as a kind of an assessment of what many of our residents that we represent experience. And for me, there were two documents last year that did that for me. I really resonated with Jack's document. I really resonated with the Michelle Halloran book on resident engagement for future area. Welcome, Ruth. You okay? Hey.
It's Ruth, finally.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
you did it.
I did it. I panicked. I couldn't find the mailbox. All right. I'm here.
by the way, Jean Hurley left the meeting because of difficulties connecting.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay,
I'm going to be gone 1 second. I got to get my agenda.
okay, well.
It's gone.
So those two documents really, to me, kind of help us set an organizational agenda. And there's going to be, I think the year 2018 is going to be a year of either a year in which we grow substantially or a year in which we kind of face our limitations. And right now, we put a budget in front of you for discussion, and we've got 3 different aspects of things we can do to that budget. The budget itself is pretty much a mirror of prior years, and it's enough to keep the office open. But it isn't enough to do the mission that I think we're in business to do. And so in the next 30 days, I'd like to try to establish a meeting of state leaderships, not just our own affiliates, but others that people have recommended that I invite, that would meet with us for a in-depth, what Leading Age likes to call a deep dive into issues. And I have a letter that I waited until this meeting to release. It's done and ready to go to the state leaders to invite them to join us at the meetings in the spring in the Washington area, which will be coincidental with the Leading Age Peak Summit. So with that Leading Age Peak Summit in Washington, and our own, both our director meetings and our members meeting in the morning, and then this meeting with state leaders in the afternoon, what I'm hopeful is that we can kind of bring together an agreement and a working agreement with state representatives. Now, I know we won't get up to too many there, but the good news is we're in the Washington area. We do have people that are close by, and I hope that we'll get a reasonable amount of participation and representation. So you'll get a copy of this invitation letter. Walt and I have coalesced on it. I think it's a good, upbeat invitation, and we'll just see how they react. But to me, the most important thing that we have to do is build membership. Without a substantial build in membership, I don't think we can really deliver very much for our membership. It takes, as best I can tell, about $50,000 a year just to keep the doors open, just to keep the membership system up and running, just to keep the bills free and processed, et cetera, et cetera. So unless, if we really want to have an effective presence in the Washington, D.C. area, I think we've got to get our membership up somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000, 8 and 10,000 members. You get a budget, a working budget of a couple $100,000, and without that, I don't see that we can do a great deal. I hate people like dues to keep an office open. At least that's how I'm feeling about it. So I've got a couple of things on the budget which really ask us to really stretch and invest some of that free cash that we have into a professional public relations or some sort of effort, some kind of organized effort in which we push to get to build our membership. So by the middle of the year, we'll have some idea of how responsive, the average CCRC resident is to our efforts to get them to join us. Unless we have numbers like that, I think we'll be kind of poor cousins trying to make any impact in the Washington area. So that's kind of an overview. You've got my lifeline, what I wanted to put into lifeline, and that I just reiterated to you the nickel version of that. In other words, I think 2018 has to be a year where us, this board, me and you, work with due diligence, with professional investment and help to try to increase our membership and increase our relationship and working partnership with state organizations. with that in place, I think by the middle of the year, we'll be able to make some judgments about the future of NaCCRA. What do we really want NaCCRA to do on the national scene? We've done what we can, but Ann McKay uses the example, the duck sitting placidly on the water while the feet are paddling underneath. But right now we got a lot of feet paddling, but not very many feet. We probably got the feet that are paddling on the phone right now. So I wanted to open the dialogue. And the first thing I put on the agenda was the Lifeline article, because usually we don't coordinate with that with everybody, but I know it's still a draft and there are still some changes that would probably be made before Ruth takes it home. But the point is, I would like to hear from board members. I'd like to see how you feel about that kind of game plan or business plan that I laid out for the members in the Lifeline. Is that on target? Is that something you can endorse? Is that something you can support? Or is that something where I'm just whistling Dixie, sitting in the middle of Florida, writing words that don't really resonate with you? So that's the reason you got it, and that's the reason you got it early. And you also have some budget information that I think would be useful. Could I open dialogue with that? Can I invite your comments, first of all, on the Lifeline draft that's been shared with you?
Well, I think your Lifeline lead article should go as it is, and it's a case of seeing how the larger membership responds to it all, but I think it can go as it is now. What I think is so lacking in Lifeline is that full sheet we used to have with new members state by state, as well as listing the deceased members. That was a positive aspect of increasing membership, and we haven't had that sheet in recent issues.
Right. Okay. All right. What do you think of Jack, while you got the floor, what do you think of the thrust of making some early in the year investments in going after membership? And what do you think about having a robust council meeting in the spring in the Washington area? You're in the Washington area. I would guess that you'd be one of the participants for sure in that. What's your sense of that?
Yeah, well,
I think I asked Jack. But
He's got his mic muted. Is
Yeah,
are you
maybe
talking, Jack?
Were you talking to me?
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh, I think it's your judgment.
Jack,
I think it's your judgment, Basil. You're our leader. I defer to you.
Well, what's your sense of it, Jack? You've been around a long time. You know what the membership's like. You know what California's like. Is that going to resonate? Is that going to turn somebody off? Is it too mild? Is it too milk? What do you think?
I think it'll be a ho-hum.
It'll be a ho-hum.
We made a big investment before in membership development. We spent, I think, $5,000 with Bennett and mixed results. But you know, you're fresh blood, fresh start. Let's see how you guys do.
Okay. Okay. How about you, Ruth? What's your sense?
I think that it's a good start, and that's where we've got to really. This is the ground, and we're going to take off running. And so I liked the article, and I like the momentum that we could probably engender from that.
Yeah. Well,
And I really the Jack's PS there on the fantasy continues, and the tales are really superb. I really had get a chuckle out of that.
I think it's a strong lifeline professionally. I think that, you know, my sense of it is it talks about mission stuff. It talks about advocacy. It's got Jack's fantasy of Sam, and that has a lot of messages in it. And in the write-up, is, you know, the whole document to me had some steam. But then, of course, I'm biased. What about you, Walt Boyer? What do you?
Well,
feel?
I have a couple of comments. One is that on the letter, I don't know whether you want to put it in or not, but we ought to reflect a little bit on some of the things we try to do for the membership this summer. Particularly, I think a major effort was trying to get the states to get call-ins for the new tax bill.
Yeah, you gave me that word. I did accept your suggestion. That's
Yeah,
in.
I'm wondering if something should go like that, go in your Lifeline letter too.
Okay.
Next point is that Jim has given me some suggestions for membership, and I'm looking into them. But in all honesty, I've never done any marketing in my life, and I'm not sure I'm very good at it. But perhaps we ought to ask Ron, while he's looking for people, if he could find somebody with some marketing experience that is a real marketer, and I think we could use someone like that in our market and to help market our membership drive.
Okay. Jim, I've held you till last almost. What's your sense?
Well, I've read the letter a couple of times. I think I kind of agree with everybody, but on the marketing, I think you're right on. It would be wonderful if we could find somebody who has some marketing experience who would go on the board. And I've been looking internally here, just where I live. There's one man who had a branding company, which I call a marketing company, in New York, very successful. I'm not sure he would want to go on the board, but he certainly has been one of my advisors in some of the things I've done here. But I've also looked to see, Basil had a couple of suggestions, trade association. I also got the name of a fundraising company from Living Age. I've reached out to them, but I haven't heard anything back. But I think to look for a professional person or a company to lead this is probably important, because we're all frail. We may be brighter than anybody else, but to find somebody who's been there, done that, would, I think, be very helpful. I mean, I've been in a number of fundraising campaigns for schools and colleges, and I'm sure everybody here has. And they always have a development director, a person who does that full time. Well, we're not going to do that. But I think we might find if a consultant or somebody in that field to do it, it's not going to be cheap. And I think, I don't know what the number is. I was hoping I'd have a number today. I think Basil said $25,000. I'd say certainly no less than that.
Okay.
And we're nowhere near that amount of money in any savings account, do we have?
That's
Yeah,
right.
we do. That's what I'm saying. I think if we're going to be an effective organization, we ought to target something like saying
Like that.
we would have a representative in the Washington, D.C. area by the end of the year. And if we could grow 8,000 members, we could probably afford to do that. Now, I don't know whether we can do that or not. I'm going over in a few weeks to meet with the other 4 LifeSpace communities here in the Florida area. And my target is to come back with 400 members, 100 per unit. I don't know whether I can do that or not, but we certainly are up to 110 here at Village on the Green, and we had 5 a year ago. So I think we have potential to develop membership. And I've talked to I've talked to a number of people who call in on those numbers. And there are people very interested, usually because they've got some kind of complaint or they've had some untoward issue. But there's a few of them out there. If you people know that we have to, if residents are going to have any voice at all, they've got to have some representation, some focal point, somebody advocating on their behalf. So I know that perhaps maybe that's not, maybe it's not possible, but I certainly think we ought to try. I think we ought to do what we can this year to try to talk to our state organizations and be very open in how we do business with them. They may have some ideas that we don't have, but clearly we all got the same clientele. It doesn't make any difference whether we're a state organization or a national organization. There's only one resident on the other end of that, and maybe we need some kind of collaboration there that could come out of a meeting. But my sense is we listen to members that during our Congress, we can listen to our state and local leaders in Washington. We can have a concurrent with that, we can have a membership drive that we probably all need to participate in. And then by mid-year, we can perhaps make up our minds whether this is a viable organization, whether it's something we can really deliver on. And I would say that unless we had 5, 8, 10,000 members, we're not going to be able to do it. If we amble along as we have been with a couple thousand members, about all we can do is keep the lights on in the building. And so what do we want to be when we grow up, I guess, is the question. And that's what I'd like to build us to consensus on. Is this worth trying? Or is this something we can all endorse? Is this something we'll put some energy in? Because I think that's what it's all about.
Well, did you have somebody in mind who might be able to guide us, or was it Jim, to guide us in how to go about doing this?
That I think that was me. I don't have. There's one company that I've looked at, and I haven't heard back from. And this is going to take a little more research. And I wasn't. I don't think we're talking about spending $25,000 or whatever the number is until we're actually sure that the membership drive is working. Because as Basil says, it costs us $50,000 to keep the lights burning.
I know.
Well, I have an idea. I've been in this kind of organization for a while, and sometimes you get jobs that none of us are really qualified to do. And in my past history, I've really leaned on the Association Executives, whatever that is. The SAE is the acronym. And they have a network of people who provide legal services, fundraising services. I learned a couple times on communications where I ended up being a publisher of a magazine, and you can imagine what I know about that. But if they have these various groups, we now have 2 board members in the Washington, D.C. area. I think we invested in a membership in ASAE, got into one of their circles of people who do PR work, who do fundraising, who do membership drives, that we may be able to find someone who has a association background that can help us put a credible program together and run it. I like the idea of that. That's where I would go first to try to get it underway. But if we don't, and I would say we push on that at the beginning of the year. I'm talking January. I'm not talking about next year. I think we start that initially after the baby comes in and the old man goes out. So, but in the meantime, we also plan this event for our state and local people. I went to the NaCCRA board meeting a few days ago, and it wasn't a lot of fun, to be frank with you, because they're still waiting for an answer to something that they gave us. In my opinion, it's kind of holding a gun to your head, but the point is that we got to have better relationships with our state organizations, and that starts here in Florida. That's something I can work on today, and I just screwed it up this morning because they had a big session, big FLICRA meeting that I just missed. But you know, we have to learn how to work with the states, and I don't say we haven't done that in the past, but somehow it hasn't congealed, and maybe we just need to listen. At least I'm more than willing to open the door one more time when we're together in Washington. So
I agree. When you go back the years, we've been trying for a long time to try to accomplish this, and if we could find a pro who could help us and assist us to do it properly, this would be worth $1 million.
I just say that the money, you know, Ruth, to me, to amplify what you just said, to me, we got sitting there and it is unencumbered. Eventually, the way things are, it's going to dribble itself out and nothing will be there eventually. I would just assume we make a
That's right.
robust push on it and use it. And if it doesn't mix, then we go to plan B, but we don't keep just drifting along with some really good research papers and ideas that we can't really project into a Congress or an ARP or whoever we're trying to influence. And
Well, I would support what Basil just said. I think Basil's brought a new perspective into leadership, and you know, we've done things in the past that haven't worked, but I think he's got a fresh vision, and it's worth giving it a shot. So
I agree.
let's see where it goes.
well, that's what I'm hoping, and thanks for that, Jack, because I think unless we how many people are on the phone right now? How many we got? 6, 7 of us, I guess, or 6 of us, and so we've got to build a larger constituency, and part of what Ron Whalen's trying to do now is to get us members, and he's not doing all that well, to be frank with you. You know, he's not. The people aren't knocking him down saying, "Hey, take me." I was trying to build that, and I'm not a promotional guy myself. Nobody's ever accused me of being a marketeer, but I really would suggest that as a board, if we can get behind it, give it a hard push. We got two board members that are in Washington. Go over to those offices of ASAE without getting on an airplane, and you know, for a small investment in a membership in ASAE, I even think mine is valid because I had one for a long time. So that's what I wanted to. That's the essence of this meeting, everybody. We'll go to the budget in a minute, and you'll see what that, you know, how it plays out in that document. But I was really trying to get a robust discussion amongst you. You've had most of the experience in this organization. So, you know, where do we go from here? And I think 2018 we ought to put on the, you know, hit the accelerator and see what we can do. And if the engine sputters out and it goes nowhere, then at least we go out, think we've given it a hell of a college try.
And I second that. That's absolutely true. We've got to, as somebody said once, you got to or get off the pot, and it's time to do that.
Yeah. Any other commentary?
Me? Which Jack?
Let's
Huh?
go for it.
Okay, let's go to the budget. Is that okay? Now, realize today you're going to get a letter tomorrow. It'll be an email that is going to go to all the states, including the one in California you gave me, Jack, to communicate with. I think her name is Catherine. I don't remember, but she's on the email list. So we'll go out and see what kind of response we get to this invitation. But I would like to, you know, as our spring meeting is planned, make a provision for that, and it would be in effect opening to the relationship. Okay, you got the budget in front of you?
Yes.
Okay.
Before you do that, could you, when you do that letter to one and all, would you just put the dates down for the peak conference and whatever else we were going to, just so I have a view of what.
Now here, I'll give it to you right now.
Oh, bless your heart.
I have that letter somewhere here. Oh, here it is. Well, no, that's the way I say I have it here. Here we go. The peak conference this year.
Wait a minute. Let's get a piece of
Hmm.
extra paper. All right.
You'll have this in the email in a day or so.
All right. If you will do that, that'll be perfect. Then I won't have to write it down right now.
Okay,
But just
the
put those-
conference begins on the 18th of March.
Okay.
And I looked at the agenda, it concludes on the 21st. And the 21st is where they take their participants to the hill. They get a tour of the
Yes.
Capitol, you know.
And that's quite dynamic, by the way, when we do
Well,
that.
To be frank, if they give us a good deal, I'll participate in that. I'd like to see it. I've been on the hill probably like Walt has, but just to get beat up when we had a bad, when we had something that some congressman didn't like. So my sense of it is I was never promoting, I was just trying to survive.
Yep.
But at any rate, I thought we would set our meeting on the day after that concludes. And that's because I think if we can go and participate, we might learn something. But on the 22nd is the tentative date that I put on our meeting. Because if Leading Ages unit terminates at 3 p.m., which it does on the 21st, we could actually have an evening meal. And if we get any state people coming, we could get to know each other socially on that Wednesday night before we go to work on Wednesday morning. And if we get our member meetings and our board meetings out of the way by say 11, we have a lunch, then we launch into what can we learn from our state organizations? What do they got to say to us? And we'll try to capture it best we can. And I think we don't try to judge anything, we just try to learn.
Right.
And so if we could do that, we could actually then even plan for return flights that evening. So I think, that to me makes sense, but that's for other people to really decide. We got to come together as a group, but that's what I'm going to propose to you, and that's what I'm proposing to the state organizations. To me, that's because if you can travel on Thursday night, you save yourself all that Friday fire drill. We've all done that all our lives, I suppose. Going home on Friday is never any fun. Thursday night's much better. So at any rate, you got the dates, Ruth. March 18th to the 21st is tentative date for us is the 22nd.
All right.
With a
Thank
meeting
you.
on
Got
the
that.
evening of Wednesday. Okay, so that will go out the date. Now we'll go back to the budget.
The location is to be at Falcons Landing. I assume did you turn down Jack Matheson's invitation?
Well, we did not. We haven't really came to grips with that yet. I don't know where, I know it's at the Mayflower is where, I think it's at the Mayflower.
No, it's at the Marriott Boardman Park.
Yeah, it's always
across the street from Leading Ages Main.
exactly.
Okay.
And,
I'm not
Jack
familiar.
Matheson's CCRC is at Thomas Circle.
Oh,
I'm going to be with Jack tomorrow morning.
What's that?
I'm going to be with Jack tomorrow.
Jack
you'll
Matheson?
see.
Yes.
That's an option.
Yeah, sure it is. Yeah, we haven't responded to Jack at all on that. I don't know exactly where the best place would be. But
Actually, the Wardman Park is wonderful. It's very convenient. The Leading Age is exactly across the street. And then they will help us also when we make the calls to Capitol Hill. So
And well, 2 years ago, I think we met at the Wardman Park and Leading Age arranged the rooms for us.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's an option.
It's not that expensive, and the subway's right close by also. So
Yeah, well, that's the good news about staying downtown, because the subway is good. Subway you can go, the metro you can use to go to the airport as well. So all that to me is a plus for where the event is. Particularly if we get, if Leading Edge will give us a good deal again and we participate in the conference. Okay, so that's what it is. We have not come to grips with where yet. Jack has an invite. We could actually use the facilities where Leading Edge meets, but we'll put it together as to make it as accessible as possible.
Good. And now
Anything
we're-
else, Jim? You got anything on that? Jim's place can handle us at the Falcons Landing, and that's an option, but that's out of it.
How far out is it?
Well, is the train
Depends
go
on
out
what time you're traveling.
there? Is the
Oh,
train
yeah.
go out there, Jim?
I'm sorry?
Does the metro go out to where you are?
Yes. Well, it's close by. I mean, you take a bus there, or we bus you there. I mean, there are a couple of ways that if you have it here, the advantages that you see our wonderful facility. The second advantage is that we're 10 minutes from Dulles, maybe 15 if you hit 2 traffic lights. We are somewhat close to a metro station, and there's easy access to either get a Uber or a car or a taxi to the Silver Line station. And it's probably less expensive out here.
Well, we'll see. What I'd like to do is leave it to Jack and Jim to talk about. They're going to have a meal together tomorrow, a meeting, something.
Yeah, the advantage of Falcons Landing is that it's right by Dulles, so you can go easy in and easy out.
Yeah.
The advantage of the Wardman Park is that Leading Edge provides the room free of charge, and they make it easy, and it's central for everybody in the DC area, and so that's an interesting option. But if we're at the Wardman Park, I would go to the peak meeting. If it's at Falcons Landing, I'd just fly in for the NaCCRA meeting, and I think that's what most people would do. If the last year when they were separated, it just wasn't convenient to go to the peak meeting. So the question is, how much value is there in the peak meeting, and is that an important aspect of it?
Jack, did you say they provided a free sleeping room?
No, they give us our meeting room. They gave us a very nice meeting room at the Wardman Park, because they have enough. The way these hotels work is if you fill their guest rooms with paying customers, they give you the meeting rooms at either free or for very little cost. So Leading Edge can provide that to us, just riding on the occupancy that they bring to the hotel.
Another advantage is that at Wardman Park, that there are a lot of little cubby holes where you can have ad hoc meetings, side meetings of various kinds. Yeah.
Okay. Well, all those things, I don't really know much about them, but the point is that we got 3 board members in the DC area. We got Jack, Jim, and Ann, and I think they'll be able to pick the one. It sounds like there's some real advantage to being right by Leading Edge.
Yeah.
So we'll put that all into play.
Good. Thank you for that.
I'd like to be able to visit Falcons Landing too.
If anybody wants to participate in that, I'm sure Jim and Ann and Jack would be glad to have you on the team.
Oh yeah, we could work that. I mean, that would be easy. We could just, we have a bus here, and we can bus everybody in and bus everybody back.
Yeah. How long is the bus ride?
That's what I said, depending on, it's probably 45 minutes unless you're doing it in rush hour.
And then it is an hour and a half.
Probably.
Right.
Rule of 2, double it. Yeah. Okay. So if you've got any input into that, realize that Jack and Jim are going to be talking tomorrow, and we'll have to see what kind of response we get from the state organizations as well.
Thank
But
you.
I didn't put any specific location or venue in the letter that you'll see. We've steered clear of that. Okay.
Yep.
So let's go to the budget, if you would. I gave you in that budget the almost 3 years of actual expenses, revenues and expenses. That's just for history purposes, because I think it's important for the board to recognize that 44,000 is our current estimate at the current level of activity at four lines, etc. It's not out of line with what we've had in the past. In 2015, we were right at 44,000. In 2016, it was 57, but that's when we had some rebates going back to Washington and state, and that's hard to uncipher that or decipher that. But the point is, I think that somewhere between 40 and 45,000 is not an unreasonable effort, and that includes some stuff that we haven't had before, because in the 2018 budget, we did put in monies for things we haven't had to pay for before, and one of those is a lease of the membership system, which according to the contract that's under development, we'll be paying $350 a month for that, plus some auxiliary fees, but basically $350 a month. And and there is a rack up to support the ads, because we will have bank fees for lockbox. We will have lease management system, which I mentioned. We do have a virtual office on Connecticut Avenue that costs money. We will have legal stuff that we used to get done through partners that we will now have to pay for, plus accounting systems, which will be quick, et cetera, et cetera. I don't bother you with that, but we do have good, reasonable estimates of those costs, and they come in pretty close to what we've experienced before. But the most important thing, I think, is the document that we gave you that talks about the budget, financial proposals, and decisions. And the budget, financial proposals, and decisions starts with, first of all, doing what we already agreed to do earlier in 2017, and that is increase Lifeline to 6 copies per year. So our all-in estimate on Lifeline is $1,900 an issue, and so if we add 2, that's around $3,800 of additional costs, which would go into the budget. You might say, well, you're going to have a deficit budget. I think you're going to have a deficit budget this year, no matter what. So, and I think we ought to embrace.
I agree. Yep.
My recommendation is we embrace a deficit budget, but a controlled budget. That doesn't mean we're throwing caution to the wind, but I think we do have to see if we can make things better. And one of the ways we make it better is communication, and Lifeline is our basic communication to our membership. So that's number one. And the number 2 thing is, I just picked the number out of the air, but I would like to deputize one of our board members in the Washington area to go ahead and join ASAE and join one of the circles on membership drives and how to do membership. And so we can learn from this, especially on the promotional end. And I would hope we could identify a provider, somebody who would do the legwork on a membership drive and publication and outreach places that we're really not present now. So I don't know what that would buy, if anything, but if I just picked 25, I would suggest if we can approve 25,000, we would say not to exceed 25,000 with any individual proposals or contracts brought back to the board for approval. I'm not asking for a blank check, but I would propose that we set a target and then ask that any specific actions that's into that target be accounted for periodically for the board. And that would include me joining ASAE. They're not an expensive organization, but it does unlock some doors to get with professionals who will, I think, help us. And the third thing was to increase membership fees. And I put a date, we approved it on the 29th on the Sunday morning in New Orleans, but we did not put a date on there of implementation. And so one April, there's nothing magic about 1 April, but I thought we've got to get this underway at some time. I gave you a copy of an old report that Bennett gave us. I didn't even realize until this year that he had recommended we increase our membership dues 4 years ago. So trying to get that underway. So those are the three things. Now that's only three. And I thought this board may have other things that you'd want to add to it. And I'm not going to ask you for a vote today. What I'm really going to ask for today is that you take this and take the comments we've given you, the budget we've given you, the information, and to get with me in a week. Study it. It's an important juncture. If we as a board want to launch into the deep and throw our nets out there and see if we can grow some new members, we're going to have to spend a few bucks, but it takes a lot of bucks to make $1,000. I mean, a lot of members to make $1,000. You can do the math. But I think that these things, with the exception of the Lifeline, are all, I can view them as, in fact, I can view all three as investments in the future. These are investments that ought to be able to grow members. Lifeline is probably one of our best promotional documents. If you show Lifeline, they get excited about it. So I put these in, but I only put them in because I'd like to make the changes transparent to the board, so you know what we're doing and you have an opportunity to impact it. So with that, I'm going to open it. I've done far too much talking, so I'm going to listen to you with regard to what you've been given so far.
I think our president has asked for support. And I think we should give that support. He's thought this through. He's given a great deal of thought, and I think the role of the board is to select leadership and then to support that leadership in what they think is right. And I assume that this is reflecting the thinking of the executive committee, and as such, I think we ought to just say go for it and let's see how it works out.
Thanks, Jay. Anyone else? Walt, what's your sense of it?
I tend to agree. I think we've got to, particularly that one, number two, it's a gamble, but and it's a 1 year gamble, but I think we've got to make an attempt to do it.
Okay.
And Ruth is here, and I concur. I think we need to. I don't think it. I know we must do this.
It's not a gamble, it's a challenge.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's a challenge.
I like that better too. Jim?
I'm for it. I vote yes.
Well, I'm still gonna give you a week to provide me any comments and come back. I appreciate the vote. In fact, if somebody made a motion and you voted it today, I wouldn't be mad, but I still think it's a big juncture. And every one of you got past presidents sitting here who know things. We've got people who are very active at the state level, and we've got a lot of knowledge on this phone call today. And so make sure we do what we can to capture not only, sometimes I have my best thoughts about meetings on my way home after we've hung up.
Always.
if I can, we need to be careful about how or where, if we're going to do it.
Okay,
Are you what?
When we-
I'm sorry. You did.
Excuse me, my voice was going. I'm talking about that $25,000.
okay,
When we increased the budget with Bennett, the intent was we essentially doubled his budget, and the intent was that he would spend the money on marketing and set up a marketing type of effort for us similar to the one he had done in Florida. However, in fact, what we did was undermine that by inviting him to meetings and getting him involved in a lot more in a consulting point of view with the board, so that he's, in essence, he spent all that money in consulting with the board rather than in doing, developing a marketing campaign. So I think we need to be careful about how we go about this, who we go with, if we go with somebody outside, and we need to do that in a very deliberative way.
you know, we're a small board. You know, ordinarily if we had a larger board, I'd say maybe we have 2 or 3 people set aside to do this. And I think naturally, just because of their location in the Washington area, Ann and Jim and Jack are maybe going to have most opportunity to be with it. But I would welcome anybody that wants to put an oar in the water on this. And I assure you, I'll have my oar in the water on it because I'm really interested in this happening. So does anybody want to that we accept this budget now with these 3 additions or not? I'm going to leave that in your hands.
Well, I think we ought to accept the budget. I think we're, if I'm listening to the board, I'd make a motion that we agree to go to the Lifeline for 6 issues and adopt everything that you've requested. And I don't know that we need to delay, although if you want to delay, we can do it. I'd also add that the Action Aging, which is still being developed, but that also has the potential to bring membership into NaCCRA. And so I'll take care of that because that's sort of the way it's gone. I noticed that since you haven't mentioned it, but I just I think that may be the fallback in case things run awry with your plan. But I think it's a good plan. It's your plan. Let's go with it.
Absolutely. I agree.
Do I have a second?
You have a second, Ruth.
Now, I have a little bit different view.
Discussion.
I feel we ought to adopt the first and third proposals today. The second one, I think, really needs to, because of its size, really needs to have a vote from the entire board.
Okay.
But the other 2, I agree we could decide ourselves here in the majority. They're not that.
In adopting this, we must concur that every board member is involved in implementing it. It's not just sitting back and observing what the other board members are able to do, but each individual board member will have to meet the challenge and implement.
Yeah. I think we could say to the other board members that this particular meeting approved it unanimously, but I think we need a vote from all the board members on item B. That's the only one I think we need to go outside this group on.
Okay, so the modification that I'm hearing in the discussion group to this is that we acquire a vote from the board members that are not present on item B.
Item B.
Okay, could we vote on that as modified? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, 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 aye.
You've got it. So we have to go to the other board members on item B.
All right.
And we'll keep the original December 14th comeback date for everybody, but it also is open to any commentary that you all have. I would really like to have everybody invested in this and feel like it's not Basil Plum's plan or Jim Hayes or Ann McKay. it's ours. We own it, and we'll try to do what we can to make it work.
Okay,
All right?
yes.
Well, that was not as much discussion as I'd anticipated. So we have
I
had
have
the
one
vote.
more question about the budget, if you have a moment.
Yes.
You have an item called well, I guess it's two. You have one called Management System Lease Development. I imagine that that's for the management system that Jack has so
Yeah. Mhm.
put together with our friend from who is from
Steve
Australia.
Richards, yeah.
But the miscellaneous administrative support, can you give me a little hint on what all that covers?
Administrative.
That was the other one I didn't quite understand.
With the good spirit that prevails, I move that we adjourn.
Well, wait a minute, we got a question. We got a question that we got to answer first, Jack. And which one was it that you wanted?
The lady.
It says,
I think it's on page 2 that he's asking about, the second one from the bottom. Is that correct?
let's see.
Administrative
Yes,
support,
yes.
50 hours of help, priced at $25 an hour.
Let me explain that a little bit. There's no question we're going to have some administrative support, but we don't have any idea really. That ties in with the number of hours that partners gave us. I guess it's not on this sheet of what they were doing on various items. Now, one of the things we didn't talk about is that we're planning to engage Lanigan. And Lanigan is the accounting firm that's been doing the accounting for our account for partners for a couple of years. I've been very impressed with them. I asked them if they would give me a ballpark figure as to what it might cost for us to engage them. They initially came up, where's the number? Counting.
You remember, well, it's hard to talk. That is just for administrative support, the $1,200 that you.
No, but what you're telling me, it's a little bit vague, but you have some.
Well, it is vague, but partners gave us hourly estimates of what they spent on this sort of thing.
Okay,
It could be basically any kind of clerical support.
that's fine. That gives me an idea of where we are.
That's what it is. Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now, Jack Matheson, it's time for you. Jack,
Yes.
now your motion for adjournment.
All right. I shall make the motion once again.
Okay,
Second.
so yeah, sure. Seconds, they're all over the place.
Yep.
So thank you very much for your time. And if I don't talk to you before the holidays, have a very good start to the day, everybody. And thank you for your help.
And thank you for all of your help and leadership.
Take care, everybody.
Jim, I did pretty well.
You did.
Oh,
Congratulations.
I did. I have my notebook and I was really right on task. So we'll do this again.
Congratulations. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Bye-bye and have a happy.
Okay.